Hi, everyone. And today we're meeting with a real legend in a coaching field, Dr. Marcia Reynolds. And there is so much to be said about Marcia, but let of the coaches that have been working in seeing differences in application of coaching. She is running her own business, of course, and she's also an author of 5 different books. The most recent, Breakthrough Coaching, worked in global companies. She is a recognized speaker. She certainly has her doctorate in organization psychology, 2 master's degrees in communications and adult learning, and instructional design, I think. So, Marcia, the legend. We are celebrating 30th anniversary of ICF this year, and I'm not even sure if I know it, but so we know each other for at least 20 years, for as long as I've been with ICF. Whew. And I found in your resume that you started your coach training program in 1995 when ICF first started it, right?
Right. Well, it was, Thomas Leonard who started ICF, and he ran our coaching school. So it was all of us that says, yes, let's do a professional association. And that's how it all got started. So, yeah.
So 30 years, Marcia, you must have seen such an evolution of what coaching is, what coaching became. Any major surprises for you that you would like to share with us?
You know what I love is about the evolution. Since we were just figuring out what we're doing at the beginning, and trying to make it in a way that it could be replicated, that people could learn a process. That I'd like to say, even though some people don't do it, that it's less mechanical, that we're understanding more and more that the as the ICF definition, the spontaneous interaction, that the creative insights comes out of the connection and the interaction that we create. So it's not just do this, do this, do this, do this. And even then, the do this, we didn't fully understand, like setting the agreement. What is that really? And so it's just taken some years of us practicing and understanding. And, that's why I like to research and write. It's like, okay, I have a better sense of this. Let me share it with you. And so that we're all really growing together in our understanding, not just doing coaching, but the powerful impact that coaching makes. And more we have to fully understand that. So because I do not believe AI can replicate what we do.
True.
It's about the connection, the energy, the human connection, where people feel seen and comfortable to be with. I don't think you can create that with a machine. So I've been writing about that a lot.
Sure, but not your most recent book, but the one prior, right? Coach the person, not the problem.
Yeah.
So that it's kind of like, well, of course, but not such an of course, and it's
Yeah.
not for or maybe coaches newer to the profession, right? So so you've been picking those kind of pain points. Can I call them pain points? And then you write about it. So how do
Yeah.
you come to those conclusions about what is the next frontier that you would like to help coaches come
Yeah.
across and come stronger on the other side?
Where it comes from mostly is when I do demos and the coaches are going, why did you do that? I was not taught that. Did you meet all the competencies? You know, there's at the Texas Coalition, their coaching conference, I did a demo and this woman said, would that pass MCC? And I just said, which competency did you think I did not do?
Uh-huh.
Because it's that whole thing. Of course, I mean, it's 30 years I've been doing this, so they're embedded. I don't coach from here. I coach from,
Right.
I coach from here, and the competencies are just here. I know I need to know where we're going, what the person really wants, and to uncover what needs to be resolved so they can get there and make sure that they have a step or two at the end. I know that, but it's in the conversation.
Mhm.
Magda, the best compliment I ever got was I was I did this demo, and the gentleman afterwards told everyone in the class, he said, I kept thinking, when is she going to start coaching me? And then I had a breakthrough, and truly that trying, then to communicate, um, because you have to learn your basics, you have to learn, the mechanics, but then how to release that, to improvise, to be present, to coach from your presence and not your memory. That's tough to teach, so it really comes from the interaction with the coaches, of them wanting to know more how to do that, or questioning, why did I not do it exactly the way they thought you're supposed to do it, so it comes out of that. So I love doing, I'm a demo queen. I love doing demos because I learn from them what it is we need to learn together, and to articulate so coaches can do that.
Yeah, ICF defines coaching as partnership, right? And
Partnership. And that I always stress that this is a partnership. It's it's you and me. It's not doctor, patient, expert, dummy.
yeah,
It's
yes.
us together. I'm your thinking partner.
Mm,
Because I know you're smart. You're creative. You can do this. I'm just going to help you think through it in a way that you're having difficulty to do on your own.
on your own, yeah.
That's what I say. Yeah.
Mm. So back to 1995, there are legends about how many people sat in that living room of Thomas Leonard.
Yeah.
ICF was created, and now look at us, 62,000 members,
Who
157
knew? Who
countries.
knew? Yeah.
Well, who knew? But actually, I wanted to ask you because from the
Mhm.
beginning, the organization held the name of International. So it was something you guys knew, felt.
Mhm.
You talk about gut, right? You talk about,
Oh, it was tough.
yeah.
That was a big debate,
Mm,
because there were most associations had like a global arm. It
right.
was national with a global arm, and but we had already had Christine McDougall from Australia, and yeah, we had a member from Europe, and it was the interest was already there, and we had to deal with, well, there's different currency rates, and the craziness when we got into certification and certifying different languages, we got to have assessors, but I don't know what they're saying. And, so it, it was a challenge for quite a while, but we felt that it was critical that coaching be international,
Mm,
that it wouldn't be US based with a global arm, that it was truly a global, worldwide, if people could all engage in transformational conversations that uplift spirits and expand awareness,
yeah.
wouldn't that be amazing? So that purpose and passion was always there from the beginning.
Mhm. Which to me is just amazing that there was that foresight already there, and also that frankly over the 30 years of ICF and my 20 almost years with ICF,
Mhm.
it really didn't change much because it was so powerful from the very beginning. So
Yeah.
congratulations on
Yeah.
giving
Thank
birth
you.
to something so amazing and still
Yeah.
so strong and getting
Yeah.
even stronger.
Yeah. And how wonderful it is to see.
Mhm, yeah. Again, based on your bio, you've been working in 47 countries.
Ah, well, I traveled long before I was a coach. The companies I worked for, global companies, ran their training departments, so I was all over the place, and a lot in Asia. But um, I think that also that we were trying to embrace the world and being, one of the early leaders, right? People want you to come speak at their conferences and be there. And my business, because I had a global mindset, people always say, "How'd you make your business global?" I don't think local. I don't even do work here. This is my nest. I come home to rest,
Right, right.
but I was one of the first coaches to have a website. Yeah. And because I came out of the tech world at 11 years
Yes,
working,
of
it's
course.
like, okay, of course we do this. And, that's how I got my first government contract with emotional intelligence.
Mm.
It was like 1998, and they went looking for someone to teach it, and they called me and they said, the only people we can find on the internet are you and Daniel Goleman, and he costs too much. So would you train for us? So the website was critical. Yeah, and so the back then to be able to stand out was a little easier than now, and so it was easier then, and then of course when we started having uh, the European Coaching Conference, and then we started having some in Asia, I would go to those conferences. I wanted to support the growth as well, and usually wanted me there, which is nice. So it grew fairly internationally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were always the biggest numbers here, but that it kept popping up all over. It's just, yeah, it was.
Yeah, I remember when working with our colleagues in the newer to coaching markets, the
Yeah.
fact that there was an international association for coaches,
Yeah.
that gave them almost instantaneous credibility,
Yeah.
and something to rely on as
Mm-hmm.
they were creating their own local organizations or
Right.
starting their businesses.
Yeah. And the desire to be credentialed by an international association, that it would be recognized around the world, that was critical.
Yeah, I can see that. So working with either in different countries, and I know that you're also involved in coaching education, but also obviously working with clients from different cultures.
Mhm.
What kind of differences do you see, or two-pronged question, or how one gets ready for working with people from a culture perhaps very different than your own?
Yeah. I would say um, cultural awareness is about being present to the person that you're with. It isn't necessarily reading a book where they define a culture, like the ones that say, uh, uh, well, Americans do this. I'm like, Americans, which ones?
Yeah.
But you look at any big country, north, south, east, west, it's different. So to assume you even know, so going in and being curious that who is this person that I'm with? Let me listen to what seems to be most important to them, and to never judge, even if it's way against my own values, to not judge it. That's just the way they live, and that's the way they see the world. Um, and I also believe when we were talking about the power of connection, the quality of the coaching presence, that that's human, that's universal. So might there be some Asian cultures where they're not quite as open and direct, but yet if with my presence that they feel safe, and this is a good place to be, and the biochemical reaction of that is creating sparking the dopamine, the serotonin, they're willing to work with us. So I do not run into so much of the holding back and not sharing, but
Mm.
I believe that's because of I'm inviting them to come into this space between us with my presence, so that's vital. If they thought I was doing something to them, or they were expecting me to give them advice, which of course in the contracting up front, I let them know I will not do that. I'm not here for that.
Mhm.
Um, then yeah, then it's interesting, because again, too, even generations, right, Magda, that you've got different cultures and generations in countries. So being careful not to, to research, and this is the way this is, to stereotype a culture. Yeah, that's yeah.
I'm smiling because I remember one example where one of the former presidents of ICF, Ed Modell,
Oh,
was going on remember the trip to Japan, and he was
yeah.
briefed by us, by staff. He was briefed that no hugging, all right? No hugging
Uh-huh.
in Australia, in Japan, and he sends us pictures of the entire huge big conference room hugging each other.
Hugging, yeah, right. I know. No, we often have misunderstandings.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then people confuse. The first time I went to Taiwan, they were like saying, you're a woman, and so that's going to be difficult, and people don't speak up, only the elders in the class or whatever. Taiwan was not like that at all. They were all over the place and competing, and I was Mr. Reynolds because of my title. Because of my title, it didn't matter. I was a woman. They were talking more about Japan,
Mm,
and so that whole thing about Asians. Oh my God, there's so many Asian cultures.
right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
You're right. The multi generations, the culture, multinational organizations are
Mhm.
embracing, now working with, some would argue, 7 different generations,
Huh.
and also are moving people from place to place.
Yeah.
Does it make it easier or more difficult to operate in such environment? To me, it's a fascinating environment. But from a coach's perspective, are there any awareness, perhaps, issues that one has to be prepared for as working in a complex organization?
Yeah. Well, I think the key word you just said was organization. It's one thing for me to, uh, to work with coaches, or individuals, but when you're dealing with organizations and you have to do the contracting and deal with stakeholders and confidentiality and really get that clarified, uh, and dealing with organizations that are based on fear. I had this one guy. I was coaching him, and uh, he was kind of hesitant, and I just sensed. I said, that this is a completely confidential conversation. He says, I doubt it. And I said, oh, so is there a lack of trust in your organization? He says, oh yeah. I said, okay, that's that. I said, I understand your mistrust, and we can go about this, but no, that's a part of my ethical code,
Mm,
that I cannot do that. And I was very clear in the contracting that if
right.
they wanted to know what was going on between you and I, that it would not be from me, it would be from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that it has to do also with the culture of the company, and their whole crazy bureaucracy of contracting and this and that you may have to navigate a little bit more of understanding. um, yeah, yeah, takes a while.
Sure. And yeah, there may be mistrust, there may be
Mhm.
unclear agreements.
Mhm.
Lately, we are talking a lot about some would call it mental well-being crises. Do
Oh,
you
God.
see more of it in your work
Yeah.
as well?
Well, a lot of it too, talking about young adults, how
Mhm.
rampant it is in the schools. And so I see it more. I tend to coach more older, where they're talking about their children and their direct reports, of what they can deal with and what they need to refer.
Mhm.
Uh, But there's so much anxiety,
Yeah.
because of uncertainty. Nobody likes uncertainty, even though nothing's ever in our lives have been certain. We pretend it does. The brain wants to make us think it does. That I know what will happen if the pandemic didn't teach us anything.
Right.
you know? But so that, leading in uncertainty. And in fact, I just did a presentation for ICF UK on uh, grief
Yeah.
and and grief. Of understanding that grief comes with the loss of anything. It's not just a person, but when
Mm,
you lose your job, your title, um, your dreams that you have to release and let go of because things have changed, and it will not happen as you had hoped. Um, there's a grieving process,
mm,
and to understand the letting go, the saying goodbye, and I see it, Magda, often show up with clients when they want to work on what they want to create in the future, but the past keeps
oh,
coming
yeah,
in.
yeah.
Yeah, but that boss I had, he was so awful, and blah blah blah. That they have not worked through their anger, their hurt, from before. And if they do not do that, they can't fully create what they want. They're only going to be creating what they don't want, not what they fully want. So when that shows up, of being able to identify it and and share the pattern, it's like, it really seems like there needs to be a resolution to this before you're fully open to the future. And I'm seeing more and more in that because of all the chaos that's going on.
Sure. I
So
can imagine.
yeah.
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 So that leads me to another question, because obviously you've been in a profession for quite a long time, and coaches pride themselves for being long life learners. But
Mhm.
how does one stay curious and on top
Mhm.
of everything that's going on? You're very much in demand. You are, you say Marcia Reynolds and everybody's like, oh yeah, Marcia Reynolds. So
Right?
so
Yeah.
how does one
Yeah.
do it?
Well, one thing I strive to do is that, um, I'm so grateful for my academic background, to be able to research and understand and translate to people that can understand it and apply it. And so I feel like I've always got to stay just a step above, a step ahead. So what is it next that people fully need to understand uh, to have a greater impact in coaching that will inspire them to
Mm,
keep going? Coaching can't get boring, you know so that I think, when people are looking for their continuing education or whatever, what is it that I don't know that I'm
mm,
really curious about? And sometimes, we may step into something thinking we'll get something and it wasn't quite it, but there's usually something to take away.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always looking, and people send me stuff. It's like, okay, I'll read this. I'll find one thing, you know? And so, that's my commitment, is as long as I'm here doing this, that I'm going to keep researching and finding uh, new things that are so critical. And again, right now, my whole passion is about the co-regulation and co-creation that cannot be replicated by AI, because we have to maintain our profession, the longevity of it. I think that's important, that we really focus on the human connection in coaching, and coaches have to fully embrace that. And that's not the easiest thing to teach and to take in,
Mhm.
especially, I was talking to, I know Zayn and Naeem, and they were here in Phoenix and we had dinner, and Naeem was saying, when you coach a physician, to tell them, who they always had to know the answer because somebody could die. Now you're saying, throw it all out, just be present. He says, it's like, oh, that's like, there's some of them that say, I just don't think I can ever do that,
Yeah.
the way they're trained, but that goes, I said, I worked with engineers for years. It's similar, and many cultures, to be able to, because we've been rewarded for our cognitive ability, to say, no, now it's about, full nervous system presence, and trusting that, and counting on what comes forth within the conversation. That's difficult for people to take on, and it takes practice.
Of
I
course.
always say that's why it takes so many hours to get your credential, because you got to practice, otherwise you're not really doing it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's for sure. That's for sure. So, Marsha, any new book coming on AI and coaching? I
Well,
just hearing something.
actually, coach the person, not the problem, was beyond my wildest dreams. It's
That
now
was
in eight.
so
We just
good.
signed with Turkey. It's in 8 languages.
Oh,
It's sold
congratulations.
tens of thousands all over the world. So I'm doing the next edition.
Uh-huh.
I contracted with that. It'll come out next year. The second edition, to coach the person, not the problem.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic. That's a great book. I mean, if
yeah,
you
thank you.
guys are listening, then read it. You read it because it's
Yeah.
an amazing
Well, it's
book.
become a textbook for so
I
many
know, I
schools.
know, I know.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because it's like, that was always the thing, and I wouldn't give up. I want to make an impact. I want to do something that's really important to coaches, and bam, that one hit.
Yeah,
So,
that's fantastic. That's really
yeah.
so cool.
Mhm.
Um, how important you think is sharing the case studies, sharing the good examples. And I'm after the fact that you and this Vietnamese organization just won the Impact Award.
Yeah.
And that's a heartwarming story, by the way, about
Oh,
the.
I love it. Their case study, everyone should read.
And
Yeah.
you can find it on ICF website,
Yeah.
coachingfederation.org. Go into Coaching Impact Awards and check the organizational award.
Yeah.
So,
That was
oh,
so
by the
great.
way, we are just open the applications for this year's
Mhm, I saw
awards. So if anybody who's listening is thinking about
that.
a person, an organization, an educator, or the philanthropist, social progress person that you think are deserving special recognition, please think about it as well.
Yeah.
But back to my question, I think that examples often it's like a picture, right? Picture says
Yeah.
1,000 words. So
Yeah.
same with the case studies, no?
Yeah. Well, even when I write in my book, putting in case studies and examples is so critical to see it in action. So if you can't like watch a demo, but that even when I teach, which I did this week for Malaysia, how to create a coaching culture. Uh,
Mm,
I always say I share so many of the ICF case studies.
mhm,
I say I'm sure you can find the industry you're in that you can find a case study. Because they often I can give them the steps, but then there's the questions. Blah blah blah. What does it look like? How do you really do that? I'm like, read the case studies.
mm,
They will show you what they did and the impact, and they'll give you the data you need to sell to your top management, the ROI, that this is going to create engagement, productivity, retention, that, and with Aon, the brand awareness and being the best, the company of choice to work
yeah,
for, that it can create that. And they did that through the pandemic, a retail company
yes,
that
amazing.
thrived through the pandemic based on doing a coaching culture. Read that case study. That'll sell it to your upper management. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And again, Marsha, I told you we're gonna get to 30 minutes mark before we know it. So,
Yeah.
if I may invite you to leave our listeners with anything you would like to share. I know good coaches don't give advice, yet the legendary coaches probably have something to share.
Yeah. Well, as with anything that we start, any skill that we start, it's always frustrating up front. I could have done better. I did it right. It's like, don't focus on what you did wrong. Be present, love them, and just figure out what they want, what's getting in the way, and what they might do. That's simply it. And at the end, notice what you did right.
Hmm.
The brain needs evidence of success to support your change. If you say, I did this wrong, I'm awful, I'm never going to be able to do this, the brain will say, I will protect you and not let you do it.
Yeah.
But if you say, look, brain, look what I did this good, I did this part really good, then the brain will support your growth. So don't focus on the mistakes. Just remember it's a transformational process to
Hmm.
be on your path of mastery. So be patient and appreciate what you do.
Well, thank you. And speaking of appreciating what you do, I do appreciate everything you're doing for the profession, for ICF. You've been doing it for years. You've always such an advocate for quality, for excellence, for standards, and ICF as an organization as well. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And you guys can find more about Dr. Marcia Reynolds on her website. And I'm sure that we're gonna pull it up. There we go. Nope,
That's
not this
okay.
one.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, here we go. You can contact Marcia right there on her website. And Marcia, thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you,
us.
Magda.
Good
Yeah, it
to
was
see
a
you as
pleasure.
always. And
You
I'll see everybody else in a month.
too. Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.